Last year we sat in block 516 at Wembley Stadium, and this year we sat somewhere completely different. So I've got lots of thoughts on how that compared and what factors might affect the seat that you choose to buy at Wembley Stadium. The last instalment I did was called Is the View from Your Seat Worth It? So I will start with a disclaimer, which is just to keep in mind that what I think is worth it might be very different from what you think is worth it. I got lots of comments on the last instalment saying, should I buy this ticket or that ticket? I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know what the other factors are affecting your decision, like your budget, whether you've got a long way to travel, how much do you like this performer, can you really afford it, will you think it's a good view from that particular seat? I don't know, because I don't know what would make you happy. So I'm just giving information and my opinions. I can't be responsible for what you ultimately decide to do. This is just a fun way for me to record the night that I had, and then if you use any of this as part of your research to decide whether this is an experience that you want to invest in or whether you'd rather save up for other priorities in life, you don't think this is something you'd enjoy spending money on, it's entirely up to you. I did learn something about the VIP section, even though I wasn't sat in the VIP section, so we will get into that. So first things first, you're going to have to get to your seat. We needed to go in through the purple zone, and I bring this up because almost no one working at Wembley Stadium seemed to know what the purple zone was or where it was. And I think that's because my understanding is a lot of the stewards are actually just temp staff, and I only saw one sign around the entire stadium for the purple zone. So it's actually on the lowest level underneath the main stairs. And if you're like, where are the main stairs? Because I didn't know that Wembley Stadium has a main stairway. But it turns out that on the north side of the stadium, where the Bobby Moore statue is a very, very, very large, wide staircase. And underneath there is a shaded area and an entrance known as the purple zone. So it has security gates like any of the other entrances, but it's not signposted very well. We needed to get up to level 2, so when you go in you don't really notice that you're going up a lot of travelators and that sort of thing, so do leave enough time to get to your seat, because we were so carried away with the fact that we were now actually inside and disoriented about where we needed to go that we weren't really paying much attention to how much time we were taking for any of this. And the way that you enter is also going to be completely different from the way that you exit. So to get out, I had to go down 10 flights of stairs. Last year, when we came down from level 5, I knew we'd come down a lot of stairs. I didn't know that it was more than 10 flights. So that's something to keep in mind. If you are in a mega rush to try and catch a train or whatever transport when you leave, just keep that in mind, that even on the second level, you've got 10 flights of stairs to go down. Everyone else is either half cut in platforms or they're half cut and wearing platforms. And also most people just generally aren't in a hurry to get home, because I guess they assume it's going to be slow going whatever they do, or a lot of people are busier looking at their phones telling other people what night they've had, or playing back the concert they've just walked out of, than they are concerned with actually catching a train. So there's really no such thing as trying to get out of the stadium as quickly as possible. As far as accessibility otherwise, I thought it was great that I saw lots and lots of wheelchairs going to the stadium. I know for a previous gig at the O2, I tried to get a disabled ticket for someone and actually couldn't, because the choice of tickets was so limited, and then I didn't have like the right proof that they were disabled. Like they had arthritis, but they didn't have the proof that the O2 demands or whatever, and I wasn't diagnosed disabled at the time, so that wouldn't have helped. So it was great to see so many wheelchair users going into the stadium. I was just surprised that a venue was actually accommodating that many wheelchair users, because if there's one thing I've learned is that the provision is usually like really narrow, so that, you know, only 2 people are allowed to be disabled in any building at any one time. I did also notice that there was a sign language performer on the north side of the stadium as well. Now I assume for that, if you want to buy a ticket where you can see the sign language interpreter, that's something where you go through a specific route to be in that block, and that you don't just take part in the lottery with everyone else to try and get as close as possible to that seat. I would hope so anyway, because there's equality legislation about that sort of thing. But then I have also been let down before by corporations that don't know what legislation is or equality. The set finished at 10:30 p.m, same as last year, even though it was a longer set this time. I was trying to catch the 10:48, although I was able to kind of beeline it out of the stadium pretty quick and knew exactly where I wanted to go. Outside of Wembley is quite confusing because it splits into different levels, and I was weaving around all the slow people so cleverly until I realized that I was on the upper level when I should have like gone down one of the slopes at some point. So I had to go round and back on myself and join the next train queue. That wasn't the end of the world. The next train was at like 11:05. Last year I had to queue for an hour in the rain because there was only like one train an hour, and one of the trains was at like 10:25 when the set finished at 10:30, so that's no good to anyone, especially if it's going to take you like a good 10 minutes just to get out of the stadium, let alone walk from the stadium to one of the stations. I was going to Wembley Stadium station, by the way. Obviously there are some other tube stations around like Wembley Park. And the other problem I had last year, it was such a restricted service, apparently due to COVID staffing, that the train that I waited an hour for was the last train of the night to my destination, and the queue was so big by that point that they had to have like extra crowd control and had to give out messages saying like, if you have any opportunity to get home on the next train after this, don't get on this train, like, because these people living in these towns, this is their last train, this is their only chance to get home, please let them take the place in front of you. And we still were crammed in like sardines and had to stand for an hour all the way home. So this year they had a lot more trains running, so I would hope that in future that's not going to be a problem. This was on a Tuesday night, last year was a Saturday night. Either way, I'd say allow at least 20 minutes to get out of the stadium and get to Wembley Stadium station if you are set on catching a particular train. So I went to see Harry Styles as part of his Love on Tour, and last year he went on stage at 8:45pm. This year it was 8:30pm, so I did wonder if the concert was going to finish earlier, but he actually just did a longer set, which was great because he performed some songs that he didn't perform last year that I've always wanted to see live. And the actual concert didn't feel like 2 hours long at all. It felt like it was 5 minutes long. I think there were meant to be 2 support acts, but we didn't go in until about 7 o'clock, so we must have missed the first one. And the second support act, Wet Leg, went on around 7 o'clock. They were done by 8, I think. So then you had about half an hour and a 10-minute warning if you wanted to go and do anything else. So I did go out into I was going to say backstage area. I wasn't backstage with Harry Styles, but we did leave our seats and go and get food between 8 and 8:30, I think, and some other things. And don't worry if you do that and you leave your seat, because they do have like a tannoy that does a countdown to warn you that the main act is going to go on stage. The doors this year opened at 5pm. Last year they opened at 4. I'm not sure what I preferred. Last year I think we felt like we had a bit too much time. We went in probably between 4:30 and 5. We did watch all of the support act last year. We had more than one drink. We went and got food. We ate some food that we had accidentally smuggled in because you're not actually meant to bring in outside food and drink. I've talked about that in the other installment I did recently about what to actually take to Wembley. Whereas this year I did feel like it was a little bit of a crush between 7 and 8:30. So we managed to queue at a merch stand and get a t-shirt, and we also queued for food. There's first aid if you need it. I probably would have liked to have done a bit more of a walk around and take some more pictures from like different seat views and that sort of thing, but there just wasn't time for that. We actually missed like part of Wet Leg's set, but that wasn't the end of the world because we weren't really there for that. But it is all part of the experience. So if you're coming from work and you're not going to get into the stadium until like 7 o'clock, you will have time to do things before the main act goes on stage usually, but you might just feel a little bit rushed even though you've got like an hour and a half on your hands. No matter where you sit in the stadium, you will have all of those facilities if you leave your seat. So it's not like you need to be in a specific area to get the best food and drink or anything like that. If you walk around the outside of the seats, you can buy popcorn, you can buy chips. We had some very dry hot dogs. You can buy pretty much any drink you can think of, including like gin bars. There's pick and mix. There's merchandise stands. You can fill up your water bottle for free. You're not actually meant to take any like drinks bottles inside from outside. I did find a platypus rolled up at the very bottom of my bag. Not a live one, obviously. But it means that if you buy a bottle of water and then you want to fill that up instead of paying again and again and again for water, there is that option. I think they were selling water as like 4 bottles for £10. Beers were like 4 for £27.50 or something like that. So if you're going as a group, you might find it helpful to split things up that way. As for the view itself, so we were in block 209. So we were both a section below where we were last year and also just like a bit further forward from where we were last year. This tier, the middle tier, is also a lot less steep than level 5. I know I got lots of comments from people saying, I'm afraid of heights. Was it lots of comments? Maybe it was like one comment, but because I relate, I was like, lots of other people have the same fear as me, which is a fear of heights. So last year I was in level 5. I went into detail in the other installment about whether that's too steep or not. Have to say, the second section to get to our row at the back of 209, which was row 16, the stairs were split anyway. So I think that's the other problem on level 5, is that if you're in one of the front rows, you quite often have like just one flight of stairs that you have to go all the way down. But to get to where we were sat, we actually went up. The rake is not as steep. There are also some railings in that section, so like where the landings are, there are some dividers in the crowd anyway. You definitely don't feel like you're gonna topple down the second section. Our seats were actually right at the top of one of those flights of stairs, but there was only 8 steps between us and the rail, and it just really isn't as steep as level 5. So I guess unless you're like drunk and dancing really crazy, you should be fine to be in that seat that's right at the top of those stairs. But if you're a liability to yourself, you should maybe swap. Make sure that you've got a seat in front of you so that you don't throw yourself down the stairs. As for the view otherwise, so we were on a diagonal compared to last year. Last year we had a straight on view, so even though we were right up at the top, at the back of the stadium, I liked the view last year because you were just looking straight on at the stage. You still had that great view of the screens. No matter where you are in Wembley Stadium, there's normally always some massive rigs on the pitch, like lighting rigs. So those were a little bit in the way again this year. No matter where you sit, one of those is always going to be in your line of sight because they're so tall. And Harry Styles, like a lot of acts, had an apron stage, which is where you have a piece of stage that comes out onto the pitch. Honestly, he's so teeny tiny, no matter where you are in the stadium. I think that you rely on the screens anyway. Like, I wasn't really trying to track where he was, whether he had come out onto that little central square or whether he was on the main stage or not, even though there's a spotlight. You're just watching the screens 99% of the time. So unless you're actually in the pit within touching distance, and you don't want to be within touching distance really, don't touch the talent, that's bad and wrong. It's a football stadium, it's very big.
London's quite big.
You're always going to be pretty far from the stage. The closest I've ever got to the stage is in like section 126, I think. I had comments from people looking to buy tickets to the wrestling, and I really had no idea what to suggest there because that has a totally different layout. So normally the seats closest to the stage at that back end of the stadium are blacked out so that you can't buy them because there'd be no point sitting behind the stage. One thing that I did think was cool this year is that the screens wrapped around. So the screens were on a 90-degree angle at the sides that people who had the seats very closest to the stage actually would have been in profile a lot of the time. While you might be closer, they would have been looking at him side on, or if he went out onto the apron, they'd probably actually be looking at his back. But because the screens turned at the sides, they could still watch the screens, which I thought was neat. I haven't seen that before. I don't know why, it seems so obvious. But my understanding, if you're going to see something like wrestling, is that they have the central ring, so that in theory, no matter where you sit, you can see what's going on in the centre, and then it's just a question of whether you want to stand on the pitch or not. And then I think they also do then have a stage at one end of the stadium as well. But I've never been to the wrestling at Wembley Stadium. I couldn't 100% say. And as for sound, his first speech was crystal clear, and he did talk a lot to the audience, and that did get less clear as the night went on. So I think there was something going on there. Like during Fine Line, I noticed him mouthing, I mean, how could you not notice it was on the screens? But he was mouthing to someone, like, is it my voice or what is it? The song itself sounded fine. I was really happy that he performed Fine Line. But I guess he was picking up some kind of like reverb as well or something in his earpiece. It didn't impact on the concert though. Don't go to a concert if you don't want to listen to like 60,000 people singing half the songs for you anyway. You can see the fireworks no matter where you go in the stadium because they have the roof partially open, which does raise a question about the weather. So last year it did rain. People on the pitch got quite soggy. We managed to stay mostly dry because we were in level 5. Although we were in, I think, row 3, so near the front, we were a bit covered by the roof and we were just lucky that the angle of the rain didn't really bother us. This year we were very sheltered, but I think we were the only people who would have been. So the very back row of section 2 for us, we were completely undercover. But I think literally like a row or two in front of us, if it had started to rain, would have got wet, and everyone below that. And obviously the VIP section behind us also would have stayed nice and dry. It's kind of difficult to decide what the temperature is going to do when you go to Wembley because it is a big concrete structure, and even though there can be a lot of people there, you are essentially sat outside all night. And I think last year the temperatures were like in the high 10s, so like probably like 18 degrees or something, and then obviously it started to rain, which impacts on that. So we were a bit chilly, but we also spent a lot of time sat in our seats just waiting for the show to start. It's a lot warmer if you leave your seat and go inside the back areas of the stadium. So it did take some layers this year. It was about 27 degrees outside, humid, not a lot of breeze going on, and we were toasty all night long. It was actually a little bit close to be dancing, close as in humid. The summer to nighttime outfit coped fine, and I didn't have to put any extra layers on until the train ride home. You could buy a hoodie from the merch stands if you were really desperate and really cold. I didn't see any ponchos for sale. I'm sure they are somewhere. Umbrellas are meant to be a prohibited item. Did I have an umbrella buried in the bottom of my bag? Yet again, quite probably. This is very likely. Now about this VIP section that was directly behind us, all I can think is that a lot of the people there actually got their tickets complimentary, or they pay so much money that it's just meaningless to them because they were really noisy. So I don't really know why you would bother paying to have access to a private lounge if you're then just going to go out onto the balcony and just talk through the entire show. So there were a few times during the quieter songs where I was a bit distracted by how determined they were to talk to each other. It was a lot of men of a certain age who I guess had had a few beers. I don't know how you could sustain a conversation at that volume for 2 hours anyway, but they were very determined to do so. And my phone camera even picked up some of that in the background noise so that they were competing a little bit with the music, which is a shame. So it wasn't bad enough to bother me. It's not like I climbed over the railing and knocked them out and said, "Oi, will you be quiet?" But I was a bit confused as to why someone would pay like $5,000 or hundreds of pounds, or if they just got their tickets for free and that's why they thought, I'll just stand here with a drink and talk very loudly, try to talk over a concert at Wembley Stadium so that I can be heard. Like my friend and I just gave up trying to say anything to each other during the songs and would just use like the 5-second gap between songs if we needed to communicate anything. So if you're planning to spend like your life savings on one of those VIP tickets just so that you don't have to queue for food and drink. We did queue for just about everything that we wanted, but honestly all of the queues moved so fast it really wasn't a negative impact on the night or anything, and it's not like you had to miss out anything. It's not like we missed the show because we were queuing for hot dogs or we couldn't get drinking water because the queue was too long or anything like that. So I wouldn't personally pay for a VIP ticket just to have access to a private lounge where you don't have to queue for food and drink and that sort of thing. And I also would be twice as annoyed if I paid for the VIP section only to be sat next to some randomer just talking very loudly throughout the entire show when they could go inside and do that if they're more concerned with having a conversation than watching the actual show. So yeah, comment if I've forgotten anything. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment if you found any of this useful. Don't forget, it is all just feedback. What you do is up to you. If you want to spend all that money to sit in the VIP section with the chatty chatterboxes, you do you, boo. And if this type of overly detailed analysis is useful in a way that you think I should apply it to something else, then by all means let me know what that thing is and I will try my very best.